Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 underway in New Delhi. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition today. US approves plan for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Defense Secretary says dangerous moment in West Asia, reiterates avoidance of a wider conflict. India set to play the second test match against England. Shubman Gill, Shreyas Iyer in focus as India eye a comeback win in Vizag. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a program at India's largest and first of its kind mobility exhibition, Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 at 4:30 p.m. IST at Bharat Mandapam in the national capital, New Delhi. Bharat Mobility Global Expo 2024 will showcase India's capabilities across the entire mobility and automotive value chains. The United States on Thursday approved the sale of 31 MQ-9B armed drones to India at an estimated cost of $3.99 billion US. The proposed mega drone deal was announced during Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Washington in June last year. Under the deal, India will get 31 high-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial vehicles, of which the Navy will get 15 Sea Guardian drones, while the Army and the Indian Air Force will get each of the land versions, Sky Guardian. The U.S. Defense Security Cooperation Agency in a statement said that the proposed sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the United States by helping to strengthen the U.S.-Indian strategic relationship and to improve the security of a major defense partner, which continues to be an important force for political stability, peace and economic progress in the Indo-Pacific and South Asia region. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said that the drone deal offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region.
So I will say that generally the U.S.-India defense partnership has seen significant growth over the past decade. This is a proposed sale that was announced during Prime Minister Modi's visit last year. We believe it offers significant potential to further advance strategic technology cooperation with India and military cooperation in the region. Of course, Congress plays, as you know, an important role in the U.S. arms transfer process. We routinely consult with members of Congress on the Foreign Affairs Committees before our formal notification so we can address questions that they might have. But I don't have any comment on when that formal notification might take place.
A high-level Maldivian delegation is in Delhi ahead of core group meeting today. The delegation, comprising of both diplomatic and military representatives, is expected to take part in the second core group meeting. The first meeting of the high-level core group was held in Male on January 14th. During the meeting, both sides held discussions on wide-ranging issues related to bilateral cooperation towards identifying steps to enhance partnership, including expediting the implementation of ongoing development cooperation projects. Another Indian student has been found dead in Cincinnati, U.S. It was the third death of an Indian student in the U.S. within a week. Taking to social media site X, Indian consulate in New York said that the police investigation was underway. It further said that the consulate continues to remain in touch with the family and extending all possible assistance to them. Earlier, Neil Acharya, an Indian student in the United States studying at Indiana's Purdue University, was found dead on Sunday after he was reported missing. This came after another Indian student named Vivek Saini was brutally murdered by a homeless drug addict inside a store in Georgia. India's Finance Minister on 1st of February presented the interim budget. The government is committed to make the country Viksit Bharat or a developed nation by 2047. Here's a report.
A vote of accountability. In a budget speech that contextualized India's economic management in a global order, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman spoke of a vision of the Amrit Kal and India as a developed country by 2047. She said the country had shown the way during turbulent economic times as a consensus builder to find solutions to global problems.
The recently announced India-Middle East-Europe economic corridor is a strategic and economic game changer for India and others. In the words of Honorable Prime Minister, the corridor, and I quote, will become the basis of world trade for hundreds of years to come, and history will remember that this corridor was initiated on Indian soil.
India is moving forward towards a Viksit Bharat, or a developed India. Much of that vision sees a transition to green energy. The Budget 2024 makes significant announcements towards green transition. 10 million households will get up to 300 units of free electricity every month through the adoption of rooftop solarization. This is in keeping with Prime Minister Narendra Modi's resolve made at the time of the Ram Temple consecration.
Through rooftop solarization, 1 crore households will be enabled to obtain up to 300 units free electricity every month. This scheme follows the resolve of Honorable Prime Minister on the historic day of consecration of Sri Ram Mandir in Ayodhya. Savings up to 15 to 18,000 rupees annually for households from free solar electricity and selling the surplus to the distribution companies. Charging of electric vehicles. Entrepreneurship opportunities for a large number of vendors for supply and installation. Employment opportunities for the youth with technical skills in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance.
The government is also providing viability gap funding for offshore wind energy projects. E-vehicle ecosystem will get a boost through greater government support for manufacturing and adoption of e-vehicles in public transport. The FDI inflow between 2014 and 2023 has been doubled compared to the period 2004 to 2013. The government has also been aiming to maximize the multiplier effect of capital expenditure and has increased it by a numerical aesthetical 11.1% to 11,11,111 crore rupees.
Building on the massive tripling of the capital expenditure outlay in the past 4 years, resulting in huge multiplier impact on economic growth and employment creation, the outlay for the next year is being increased by 11.1% to 11,11,111 crore rupees. This would be 3.4% of our GDP.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman committed to reducing the fiscal deficit to 5.1% in the current budget and to reduce it further to below 4.5% by 2025-26, a clear path of fiscal consolidation. She committed the interim budget to the House with a reference to the economy being firmly placed on a high sustainable growth path. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi hailed the budget presented. He said that this budget has a reflection of the young aspirations of a young India.
ये बजट विकसित भारत के 4 स्तंभ युवा, गरीब, महिला और किसान सभी को एम्पावर करेगा। निर्मला जी का ये बजट देश के भविष्य के निर्माण का बजट है। इस बजट में 2047 के विकसित भारत की नींव को मजबूत करने की गारंटी है।
Let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines. today from India. Amid the chilling winters in India, the capital city of Delhi was engulfed in dense fog on Friday morning. The shallow fog has affected visibility in several areas, which is causing disruption in flight and train services. According to the Met Department, a layer of fog shrouded isolated areas of Delhi and East Uttar Pradesh, while dense fog was observed in isolated pockets of Haryana, Rajasthan and Jharkhand. Pangi Valley, a tribal area of Chamba of Indian state of Himachal Pradesh, received heavy snowfall. The entire valley has been covered in a thick layer of snow. Earlier, the Met Department issued an orange alert for snowfall at various places in Himachal Pradesh, indicating the possibility of rain also in other parts of the state. Indian Coast Guard celebrates its 48th Raising Day in New Delhi. India's Defence Ministry said in a statement that Indian Coast Guard, with 152 ships and 78 aircraft in its arsenal, is on track to achieve its targeted force levels of 200 surface platforms and 100 aircraft by 2030. Under the motto, Vayam Rakshama, the Indian Coast Guard has saved over 11,554 lives since its inception. In the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh, large number of devotees flock to Varanasi to offer prayers. Hindu devotees are performing the rituals of worship in Varanasi's Gyanvapi Cellar on the second day after the district court's approval. The basement barricades were open and people offered prayers. A significant security arrangement has been made in the vicinity to avert any potential disturbances. You're watching DD India Live. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live, European Union gives nod to extend 50 billion euros in financial assistance for Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky welcomes the move. The executive chef for Paris 2024 Olympic Games, Charles Gilloy, is all set to head 300-strong team tasked with feeding people from 206 countries. And Ice Palace takes shape for annual New York Winter Carnival.
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
Voice of a rising aspirational world. Stories of challenges, struggles and accomplishment. A world battling conflict, hunger and poverty. Embracing growth, development, science and technology. A voice of progress, a voice of unity. Watch Voice of the Global South with me, Akshay Dongre, only on DD India.
Why is the world preparing for a second Trump presidency? I connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India Live and I'm Preeti. Let's get you International updates. The US has approved plans for a series of strikes on the Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. It comes after a drone attack killed 3 US soldiers in Jordan, close to the Syrian border, on Sunday. The US blamed an Iranian-backed terrorist group for the attack. That group, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, is believed to contain multiple militias that have been armed, funded and trained by Iran's Revolutionary Guards Force. Iran, meanwhile, has denied any role in the attack, which injured 41 others and the US troops at the military base known as Tower 22. Meanwhile, US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said on Thursday that this was a dangerous moment in the West Asia, but the United States would work to avoid a wider conflict.
So this is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region. But we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
Israel will shift the focus of its operations to Gaza's Rafah city after claiming to have dismantled Hamas units in Khan Yunis. Rafah is located near the Egypt border. The development comes as Qatari and Egyptian mediators hope for a positive response from Hamas to a fresh proposal for an extended halt in fighting, agreed with Israel and the US at talks in Paris last week. The proposal also calls for release of hostages. Meanwhile, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said that the country's troops have killed 10,000 terrorists in Gaza since the start of the conflict with Hamas.
To continue, not to stop it, requires national resilience and determination, and we must preserve until we complete our missions. And it is more difficult for Hamas. Believe me, they don't have weapons, they don't have ammunition. They have 10,000 eliminated terrorists and another 10,000 terrorists who are wounded and not functioning. This is a serious blow that erodes their abilities.
The US has said that it had very frank conversation with Israeli officials about settler violence in West Bank. Now, this comes after the Biden administration imposed sanctions on 4 Israeli men it accused of being involved in settler violence.
I will say we have had some very frank conversations with them about extremist settler violence. And that includes some very detailed conversations where we have presented cases to the Israeli government cases of settler violence where we have seen reports and where we have seen documented settler violence and asked them to take action. And we have seen them take some action.
Leaders of the European Union on Thursday unanimously voted in favor of extending 50 billion euros in financial assistance for Ukraine, a decision that was welcomed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The crucial funding was stalled last year when Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban blocked its passage at an EU summit in December. Zelensky said the EU's support will help strengthen the long-term economic and financial stability of Ukraine. Megumi Lim has more from Kyiv.
President Zelensky on Thursday thanked European Council President Charles Michel and EU leaders for establishing the 50 billion euro aid package, which will be provided to Kyiv over the next 4 years. The aid deal, called the Ukraine Facility, was approved during a European Council summit on Thursday.
Today is indeed a very special day. The European Council reconfirmed Europe's unwavering commitment to stand with Ukraine. We all know that Ukraine is fighting for us. So we will support them with the necessary funding and provide them with the much-needed predictability they deserve. So with this agreement, Europe stands united and is well-equipped for the challenges ahead. In other words, today Europe got stronger.
After weeks of concerns that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban may block its passage again, as he had done in a previous EU summit in December of last year. Now, before Thursday's summit began, EU leaders pressured Orban to lift his block. Now, Orban has for months been calling for the need to review the distribution of funds on an annual basis, which triggered concerns that this could open up the opportunity for the funding to be vetoed by him at a later stage. He had also tried to get the EU to unblock money allocated for Hungary, which has been frozen due to concerns about the country's deteriorating rule of law. Now, EU leaders agreed that the aid package will be discussed yearly and that it will potentially undergo a review in 2 years only if necessary. The news came after officials in Ukraine warned that Kyiv may face an economic crisis if support from the West continued to stall. Although Zelensky said he was grateful for the long-term financial assistance to Kyiv, he also urged EU leaders to send more military aid.
I'm grateful for your decision on the financial instrument for us, for our people, for Ukraine. Ukraine facility with 50 billion euros for a 4-year period. This is a clear signal that Ukraine will withstand and that Europe will withstand. It is also really important that this decision was taken unanimously by all of you, all 27 member states, and it is yet another clear sign of your strong unity and support.
Officials in Ukraine have said that Kyiv is facing a critical shortage of artillery shells, while Moscow's forces continue to fire thousands of shells along the front lines every day. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
United Nations highest court, the International Court of Justice, will decide if Ukraine's case against Russia, accusing Russia of violating international law by claiming its invasion, was a response to an alleged genocide on Friday. Over 24 European states have backed Kyiv by giving formal statements to the court, stressing they believe the case should move forward. The court has already issued emergency measures in March 2022 in the case, ordering Russia to immediately halt its military operations in Ukraine. While the court's rulings are final and legally binding, it has no way to enforce them, and Russia have ignored their orders. Moscow said Ukraine is using the case as a roundabout way to get a ruling on the overall legality of Russia's military action. Thousands of farmers have taken to the streets of Brussels to protest against rising living costs. The protest brought the city to a standstill as protesters clashed with police. Alex Cadier gets us the details.
Well, farmers have been here in the streets of Brussels blocking traffic, blocking most of the main avenues, and they've been here all day outside of the European Parliament. You see they've lit 2 bonfires. Those have been burning all day. These farmers here to express their anger, their frustration with what they say are rising production costs and falling prices for their products. They say that their way of life, their businesses will not be sustainable in the months to come. They will need more support from the government. That is the message from here today. And we heard Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission President, saying that we hear farmers and we support European farmers, says the European President Commission. She, alongside the Dutch Prime Minister, the Belgian Prime Minister, met with these farming groups, hearing their concerns, hearing their frustrations. But we saw those frustrations boiling over earlier today. Just behind me, we saw some of these farmers clashing with police, throwing bricks at police officers, throwing eggs at the European Parliament building as well, making that anger heard. It's certainly an issue that will be rumbling on in the next few weeks. Of course, European elections expected in June, and we can expect this to be quite a core, quite an important issue as well. So certainly that frustration, that anger expressed by European farmers here in Brussels today and heard by those EU leaders gathered in the city. Alex Cadier in Brussels reporting for DD India.
A quick look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. The archive of contemporary music and its 3 million sound recordings is presently set up at an unlikely location of a colorful orange and white building in rural New York, formerly used for raising pigs. With the goal to preserve 2 copies of every recording ever made, one to be used as a listening copy and the second as an archival copy, ARC envisions becoming a public research. A mesmerizing ice palace is currently in the process of being constructed for the upcoming Saranac Lake Winter Festival in 2024. This frosty marvel, a time-honored tradition, stands as the focal point of the annual festivities. In recent times, the intricate structures have been skillfully crafted by talented residents of Saranac Lake, adding a personalized touch to the frosty spectacle. And streets were empty in Colombia's capital, Bogota, on Thursday, as the city went car-free in an effort to curb traffic and air pollution. Only public transport vehicles such as taxis and buses were allowed on the capital's roads, following strict instructions. Thursday's car-free day came up the week after the capital was shrouded in smoke from nearby wildfires. A quick look at sports now. Depleted Team India is all set to lock horns with England in the second test at Visakhapatnam from Friday. India will be gunning to bounce back after they lost the first test by 28 runs, despite taking the first innings lead of 196 runs. England stunned India courtesy of marathon innings by Ollie Pope and 7-wicket haul by Tom Hartley in the second innings. Big setback came for India when Jadeja and KL Rahul were also sidelined due to injury. Kuldeep Yadav is set to replace Jadeja, while there is a toss-up between Rajat Patidar and Sarfaraz Khan for KL Rahul's spot. England have announced their playing 11 ahead of the match, making 2 changes. Uncapped spinner Shoaib Bashir comes in as a replacement for the injured Jack Leach, while the veteran James Anderson has replaced express pacer Mark Wood in the team. 7 times Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton is set for a shock switch from Mercedes to Ferrari in 2025 as replacement for Spanish driver Carlos Sainz, according to multiple media reports on Thursday. It means Hamilton, 39 years of age, would team up with Charles Leclerc, with the Italian team, in fact, announcing a week ago that the Monegasque had signed for several more seasons. Now, the move would be Ferrari's latest attempt to reignite their Formula One World Championship ambitions. The most famous team in the sport, but Ferrari have not had a world champion since Kimi Raikkonen in 2007, and their last Constructors' Championship was claimed in 2008. All right, as the sporting community gears up for the Paris Olympics, we take a look at what's on menu cards for the athletes who will be participating in this year's Summer Games. The executive chef for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, Charles Guilloy, is all set to welcome the world at its table. A total of 550 dishes will be served to the 15,000 athletes at the Paris Olympics, which will be held in the month of July and August. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India Live.